Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. Yeah. So there are people that feel that way, right? So now now let's dive into the state of DeFi. Now this slide pretty much summarizes the way the current state of DeFi right now. So yeah, I don't need to explain anything here. It's pretty much self-explanatory here. But yeah, so I believe as Dave, who's been in the space for long, who's built DeFi applications, that DeFi is one of the most important use cases of Web3 right now. But to onboard the next billion users with this state of user experience, it's going to be very hard, right? So what we need to do, and few protocols are working on this aspect. They're focusing on improving their user experience and getting more users in. But then it's not enough, really. If you see the overall picture, it's not enough, and we need to do more as an ecosystem, right? So this is an ideal world where DeFi would look like, which is the DeFi money Legos where, I mean, you can ignore the approval part because that's a permanent pain that we have. So please ignore the approval side of things. Now, if you see the second transaction, right? Now here, this is a complex operation where we buy an NFT with Bitcoin in just one transaction, right? Which is really rarely possible these days because, like I said, the UX state in DeFi is pretty bad, right? And the current state, so this is the ideal state, right? That we have. Oh, sorry. Okay, this is not. I need to do that. Yeah, so this is the current state of DeFi right now. Oh, this is the ideal state, right? Now the current state is this, which as I call the hell loop on chain, the hell on chain, right? Where if, for example, right now I have to buy a NFT with Bitcoin, right? I have to open multiple tabs, I have to do multiple transactions, spend a lot of gas, spend a lot of time, and time is money, as we all know. So, and that's the current state where people have to open multiple tabs, and it's not really ideal for a new user coming into the space. And if he wants to, gain exposure to an NFT through Bitcoin, for example, right? So, and yeah, it's pretty frustrating, like we all know, and it's not ideal. Now, the thing is, this is what we at Shell Protocol are building, which is Ocean, which is basically a ERC1155 ledger for people to where we have different DeFi primitives, and all the primitives, instead of sharing their own, having their own individual smart contract storage, they share a common ERC1155 state, a common contract which we call as the Ocean. Basically, the idea is that all primitives have their token supported. Basically, all the primitives generate their token IDs, and that get registered on the Ocean contract, and then the Ocean contract knows that how many primitives are there and how many different token IDs that are being supported, right? And we introduced the composability factor, which was lacking in the previous slide and lacking in today's world mostly, right? And the composability factor is pretty important. It's kind of like a heartbeat for DeFi because without it, as I said, we won't be able to scale much. Now, and that's a standard that we are building, for people to do multiple interactions if they want to, lend stuff, lend their tokens or borrow stuff or do swaps. So we encourage people to try out Ocean where they can do multiple complex operations in just one transaction. And that's the idea of improving UX state in DeFi, right? Now this is the architecture. So yeah, sorry about the slide because it's not really visible probably. But the idea is that if Alice is a user and she wants to do, like I said, if she wants to buy Bitcoin, buy NFT with Bitcoin, right? So what she can do is she can directly interact with the Ocean contract, or she can approve a forwarder who can interact with the Ocean on her behalf. So sort of kind of, like acting as a solver for her, right? And then the Ocean does multiple operations where there are two types of transactions, right? Where either you can wrap or unwrap tokens if you have like ERC20 tokens or 1155 tokens or NFTs, which is 721 standard. So you can wrap or unwrap those tokens into the Ocean token ID. And the other operation is where you interact with different DeFi primitives, right? And the primitives can include AMMs, lending protocols, NFT marketplaces, and whatnot, right? And you interact with the Ocean. You do everything in one transaction, and then you are able to get your desired result, right? Now, and the other part is that, like I said, once you deploy a primitive, we have to register that token that the primitive will support with the ocean, right? So there's another transaction call that is made once when the protocol is deployed, right? So when the primitive is deployed, and this is the current architecture that we have, which has been live since last year. So yeah, and this is the current state of UI improvement, UI that we have. And now this is a NFT to NFT swap. So there are two NFT pools, and you can do multiple NFT swap in just one transaction, rather than doing multiple NFT approvals and doing a set approve all each time or whatever with different collections and all. So you can do everything in just one click, right? You just have to select tokens and you do everything by just approving the signing the transaction. That's it, right? And this is another example. So that was related to NFTs. This is a LP to LP migration, right? So we all have noticed that right now with Uniswap, for example, if you have to migrate from one LP, one liquidity pool to another, you have to do multiple transactions, right? You have to first withdraw your liquidity, then you have to approve the new pool, and then you have to sign another transaction to deposit money into that pool, right? Which is not really ideal, and you spend a lot of money and time doing that. And we make it possible by just one click. So you select the pool that you want to migrate to, and you select the pool to migrate from, and you just sign one transaction, and voila, that's done, right? So that's the idea that we are bringing in with the composability factor that I talked about. So that was all about the ocean and how we are we are making that composability easy and more simple for people in terms of the user experience. Now we come to the AMM side of things, right? And these are the current examples that exist in the space, right? Where there are like three different categories that we see here. There are basic AMMs, which are the constant product with Uniswap V2. We have a constant sum and constant mean, right? Constant sum is introduced by Curve, and now we have constant mean as well. Then we have hybrid AMMs where you can change between two different types of Curve formulas. Where the notable example is stable swap by Curve, of course, which can like switch between constant sum and constant product depending on the liquidity in the pool, right? And then there are other examples which probably I won't dive into in this presentation, but yeah. And then the third category is virtual reserve AMMs, right? Where the notable example is, of course, Uniswap V3, where people can mint in individual positions and get a non-fungible token, when they mint it. And all the curves are basically an individual amplification, right? Because every position is unique when you mint it, right? Unlike V2 with Uniswap. And the other example that what we are building on is at Shell is Proteus, where we specify different curve parameters when we deploy the pool, and that is based on the curve. The amplification of the bonding curve is based on those parameters throughout the life of that particular AMM, right? So this is the current state of AMMs and LPs, right? Now, liquidity providers want more capital efficiency besides a healthy life, right? So, and constant product isn't really capital efficient. That we have seen with Uniswap V2. Because stable coins usually trade within a specific price bands, right? They don't deviate much. So then then constant product with Uniswap V2 isn't really sufficient because a lot of liquidity is unutilized, right? And that's why we have solutions like stable swap with Curve, which is another popular solution, like I mentioned, where you can switch between different variations of the curve, where you can switch to constant sum or constant curve, constant product, and then we have Uniswap V3, which allows individual LP, like I said, and you mint a non-fungible position. Now with Shell, right, with Proteus, what the difference between Uniswap V3 and Shell in one aspect is that instead of non-fungible tokens, we have fungible LP tokens, right? So that's just one of the common things, one of the key differences that we have, right? Now, now we move on to pros and cons for concentrated liquidity, which was introduced by Uniswap V3 to start off, right? Now it works great, like I said, it works very well for stable coins. It's profitable for flash LPs, like people who are like bots, for example, who monitor the pool and they just invest when it's a good time to invest, and withdraw their liquidity very quickly. So for them, it's pretty profitable because they know when's the right time to invest and they're monitoring the pool, right? But then there are, and then it works well for traders who want to just swap money, right? Swap funds from one token to one stable coin to another. So it works well for them because the liquidity is concentrated at one point for stable assets, for example, right? But the catch is that it comes at the expense of the traditional retail liquidity providers who are in here for the long term, right? So for them in the long term, they always get a face impermanent loss, which is not really ideal again for onboarding more people into the space, right? And so the TLDR is with AMMs, with the current state of AMMs is that it's riskier for the retail liquidity providers. The concentrated liquidity increases fee revenues for LPs, but the impermanent loss just exaggerates too much. It's too much for that to counter. So it over counters the fees that is earned by the liquidity providers. So in the end, you have a loss, right? So it's not profitable for a person who wants to stay in the long term, right? Now, so like I said, moving on, probably we need to, we need to think of a better way in terms of how we want to go forward in terms of the AMM space. And because if we want to be sustainable, so we have to be, there has to be a way where the fee probably has to be more than the impermanent loss, but then the balance has to be such that the traders also don't face losses, right? So we have to balance things out and in a way so we can make the space sustainable for people to use, right? Now, like I said, LPs are only profitable when fees is more than the impermanent loss, right? But then there's a catch because the traders have to pay those fees, right? So there has to be a balance where we increase fees in a sustainable way for the traders and also decrease the impermanent loss for the traditional LP providers, but not at the cost of losing both of those users, right? And having a negative impact as a protocol or as a space, right, in terms of this industry, for example, or the AMM space. This is our solution, which is Proteus, which is our own AMM engine. And the thing is with Proteus, we can generate any bonding curve of any shape. The bonding curve can change dynamically over a period of time. And we can also have dynamic and static feed depending on how you want to keep the pool configuration, right? Now the thing is the AMM space, the design space of AMMs is a never-ending thing, right? Because in terms of efficiency, in terms of a better user experience, it's a never-ending thing. Like there will be innovations coming in the future. People are working on it. There are good solutions out there and good solutions being worked on. And this can only be solved by empirical data, and we need more data to just to analyze how the behavior of the users have been, how the different types of pools have behaved. So yeah, it's a never-ending space, but at this point we have these solutions, and Proteus is our solution to counter all this, all these issues, right? Now, the latest design of the AMM that we're working, the latest Proteus design that we're working on is evolving Proteus, where the idea is that the curve will evolve over time, right? So we deploy the pool with starting and ending prices, and we set a duration where the curve will evolve. And the prices will move in a way till that duration according to the limits that we've set, right? And after the duration, the curve is static after that. So the idea is that within each plot, the curve parameters are static, but as we as we move plot by plot, after each plot, the curve parameters sort of evolve, sort of change. And like I said, we provide a duration, and the curve parameters only update till that duration, right? And after that, they are static. So, and the equation, I've mentioned an equation here, which is mentioned in our white paper as well, which is about to be released soon. So the idea is that the evolving Proteus consists of multiple single slices, right? Like I said, each block is a slice in a way. And the equation is determined, it is represented by this equation where the U part is the utility, which is the pool's internal measure, which is our own internal definition of how we measure value of a pool, right? And then A and B are just translation of the constant curve, product curve, right? And X and Y here are the reserve balances in the pool. So I probably won't dive much into this, But yeah, this is the equation that we have, that the curve is following, and the curve is behaving according to that, right? Now it fixes the following shortcomings that we have in the space right now, where we update the liquidity concentration over time, because like I said, with liquidity concentration there are a few cons of it, and it mostly affects the LP providers in terms of impermanent loss and stuff. So with if the curve can move over time, right, then we can be safe from these things, and we can counter these things better, and we don't have to worry about MEV attacks as well, right? Because this is happening this is way too common now with impermanent loss. That if for example with V3, if the price goes out of the range that you've provided it in, you of course don't earn any fee. But then if you want to shift your position, then there's a big chance that you can be hindered by MEV attacks, right? Which is not ideal as in the AMM space. So the second thing is, which we are thinking of launching, soon, which is a Dutch auction AMM, which can be used for price discovery mechanisms. So we spin up a AMM evolving Proteus pool, where we can determine a price of an asset very efficiently over time, right? So that's the other application that we see and that we have been working on. And yeah, thanks a lot guys for listening in so patiently. And yeah, the aim for Shell is to just simplify DeFi UX, and we're trying to build these tools and be more efficient at it. And this is our QR code. You can see the website, join our Discord, interact with the team. And yeah, thanks a lot. It's been fun. And yeah, any questions? I'm here for any questions about DeFi or anything. Yeah, thanks a lot.
I wanted to know more about the fungible tokens which we are getting. Like we get NFTs and V3.
Yeah.
What do we get in Shell?
Yeah. So with Shell, you get ERC1155 tokens. So and then yeah.
So right now we are building that same LP position lending borrowing platform.
Yeah.
DeFi pool share. So we were just so this is ERC11.
1155, yes. Okay. Multi-token standard, yeah.
Okay, good.
So the idea is that we can support all kinds of assets, right? You can have AMM pool, you can have ERC20 pools, you can have NFT pools, and you can switch your liquidity in between those pools as well. You can also have ERC1155 pools as well. So that's the idea. That's why we chose ERC1155 in terms of the asset that you can do more things with or do more innovations with. And our protocol is different than Uniswap, like I said. So yeah, the idea for that is just to add the composability flavor that's missing in DeFi right now.
What would you say about V4 coming up with these solutions for?
Oh yeah, like I said, it's a never-ending space, and V4 is more around off-chain signed orders and auctions and stuff. We have also been sort of mind melding on that aspect of things, where we have a premium, and that premium only can be earned by a trader who bids in a Dutch auction and wins the bid, and then they get access to the pools or something around that. But we don't have the off-chain side of things yet, and that's just that idea is still at a very initial stage. But yeah, with Uniswap, it looks pretty good. They recently, I think, announced that. So they have like off-chain signed orders and
also the hooks for integrated liquidity providing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the other part, the good part is that if you, for example, the transaction fails, you get a refund on gas and stuff. So yeah, that's pretty impressive as well. Like I said, I mean, it's a never-ending space. People are going to come up with new solutions, new and efficient solutions, and yeah, that's the idea that we are all sort of, backing. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. Yeah.
So I wanted to know more about the Ocean protocol. So let's say I have USDC and I want to swap, lend it on Aave. So will Ocean act as a proxy between me and Aave?
Yeah.
And Aave can take the USDC out of my account?
So I mean, in a way it can, but right now our idea is not to. Right now the Ocean is not integrated with any other protocols. So the idea is, I mean, in an ideal world, we want more devs to build using the Ocean and build things on the Ocean, where people can where the Ocean interacts with like you said, with other primitives outside of Shell. Right now it only interacts with the primitives that we have written, right? But the idea is that you primitive that interacts with the Aave protocol. You can easily do operations around that. Yeah.
So will I get like a ERC-115 wrapper of USDC if I am interacting with?
Yes. Yeah. You will first have to do a wrap interaction, and then you'll have to do a lending interaction with the primitive, for example, with Aave, right? That's using Aave. Yeah. So that's the idea.
And another question is with the Proteus. So is it like is it better for stable coin, like over time it will LPs like
Yeah.
LPs will be concentrated to like.
Yeah, so the design is similar, right? I mean, we also have liquidity concentration in the sense that when we deploy the pool, we only pass in some price parameters that we know that based on the current market rate, right? And if for example, the market rate goes out of the prices that we have provided, then we use a minimal proxy architecture, right? So we can update the implementation with the new prices. So there's nothing, and which is not available in Uniswap V3, for example. So with V3, if for example, you're dealing with volatile assets, right, and the price goes out of the price band, then you don't earn any fees, right? But it's not the case with Shell, because then we can, like I said, we can deploy a new implementation pointing to the new prices.